They are a people without a homeland, yet they have endured for thousands of years. They were exiled, persecuted, and expelled from every empire. And yet today they hold some of the most powerful positions in the world. From religion and finance to science, the influence of the Jewish people is everywhere. So, what is the true history of this nation? How did they manage to survive and shape the world so profoundly? Let's uncover the strange, tragic, and mysterious journey of the Jewish people, from ancient scriptures to today's global stage. Jewish history, 1,000 years of exile of the world's most intelligent people. The Jewish people, a unique group that is both a religion and an ethnic minority known for their exceptional intellect, have long been recognized as one of the most intelligent peoples in human history. Yet ironically, it is precisely this extraordinary intelligence and their intense, distinct faith that have made them the target of unending tragedies throughout more than 4,000 years of history. They have endured countless persecutions, exiles, and discrimination in nearly every corner of the world. The darkest chapter was the Holocaust carried out by Nazi Germany during World War II, which took the lives of over 6 million Jews, one of the most horrifying stains in the history of humankind. Yet from this deepest darkness, their resilience and longing to return home united them once more, enabling the Jewish people to overcome adversity and return to their ancestral land, what they call the Promised Land, where they would go on to establish the modern state of Israel. In this video, we will explore a remarkable journey, the journey of the Jewish people from their earliest origins through wars, migrations, and relentless hardship to understand why they are often called the most intelligent nation in the world. The history of the Jewish people is a long, blood-stained epic that runs parallel to the history of the Arab people and the ancient civilizations of the Middle East. Although today there is little direct archaeological evidence of the earliest Jews, most of what we know comes from the Torah, the sacred book of the Jewish people. According to legend, both Jews and Arabs are descendants of Abraham, a man who lived in the northern region of Mesopotamia and is believed to have received a divine revelation from God. He left his homeland to settle in the land of Canaan, located between the Jordan River and the Mediterranean Sea, an area that today encompasses Israel and Palestine. Around 2000 BCE, Abraham and his family undertook a grueling migration to Canaan. According to the book of Exodus in the Bible, it was there that he had a divine dream encountering God, who promised to give a permanent homeland to his descendants. In return, Abraham was required to show absolute loyalty and worship no other god but him. From that point on, a sacred covenant was established between God and Abraham. Abraham's name was changed to Avraham, meaning father of many nations. Canaan was thus regarded as the Promised Land, the intended permanent homeland of the Jewish people. Abraham married Sarah, his official wife, but she was unable to bear children for many years. According to the customs of that time, he took Hagar, Sarah's maid, as a second wife. Hagar gave birth to a son named Ismael. However, a miracle later occurred. Sarah became pregnant and gave birth to Isaac, considered the legitimate and rightful heir. Sarah asked Abraham to expel Hagar and Ishmael from the tribe. From that moment on, according to the Quran, Ishmael and his mother settled in the region of Mecca, and from his lineage came the Arab people, the foundation of Islam. Meanwhile, the descendants of Isaac continued to thrive in the land of Canaan and would later become the ancestors of the Hebrews, the Jewish people. Isaac fathered Jacob, Hebrew, named Yaakov, who would become a pivotal figure in Jewish history. Jacob had 12 sons, the patriarchs of the 12 tribes of Israel. According to the Bible, in a mysterious dream, Jacob wrestled with an angel and was later given a new name, Israel, meaning one who wrestles with God. From then on, his descendants were called the children of Israel, the foundation of the Jewish nation. This name was not merely a title. It symbolized a spirit of resilience, the struggle for survival, and unwavering faith throughout thousands of years of history. Since ancient times, the land of Canaan, now known as Palestine and Israel, has held immense geopolitical significance, serving as a bridge between three continents, Asia, Africa, and Europe. This strategic location made it a major hub for trade routes, but also a target for conquest by empires such as Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Persia, and Greco-Roman powers. In ancient documents like the Amarna letters from ancient Egypt, the Jewish people were referred to as the Habaru. Depending on the era, they were described as nomads, mercenaries, rebellious insurgents, or even slaves and prisoners. Despite constant oppression, the Jewish people steadfastly preserved their cultural and religious identity, key elements that allowed them to survive through millennia of exile. One of the more compelling theories today suggests that the ancient Jews, those we now call the Hebrews, were actually a group that branched off from the indigenous Canaanite population and the Habaru people. Around 1800 BCE, Egypt entered a period of strong economic growth, attracting thousands of foreigners to live and work there, including many Palestinians from the land of Canaan. Roughly a century after Abraham's time, the region of Canaan suffered a severe famine due to prolonged drought and crop failure. In this situation, people were forced to abandon their homeland in search of more fertile and safer lands to live in. Egypt, with its lush Nile Delta, became an ideal refuge for neighboring peoples. With its rich alluvial soil, temperate climate, and abundant water sources, Egypt was known as the granary of the Mediterranean, drawing immigrants from all directions. What were initially meant to be short-term migrations, spanning only a few harvests, eventually turned into permanent settlements lasting for centuries. The Jews' descendants of the 12 sons of the patriarch Jacob gradually grew into 12 large tribes. They settled in the fertile region of Goshen in Egypt, transitioning from a nomadic lifestyle to a more stable agrarian one. However, the rapid population growth of the Jewish community caused concern among Egypt's pharaohs. Fearing that the Jews might one day pose an internal threat to the power of the Egyptian dynasty, the Egyptian authorities began implementing oppressive policies. The Jews were turned into a slave class, forced into hard labor to build structures for the empire. In a more brutal move, some pharaohs ordered the killing of all newborn Jewish boys in an attempt to curb their population growth. Ironically, despite the Jews having lived in Egypt for centuries, there is no explicit mention of their existence in ancient Egyptian historical records. Similarly, the Bible remains largely silent about the 400-year period between the time of Joseph, Jacob's prominent son, and the Exodus. However, some historians point out that between 1700 and 1550 BCE, a group known as the Hyksos rose to power and ruled parts of Egypt. There is a theory suggesting that the Hyksos might have had some connection to the Jewish people. Amidst this era of oppression, a legendary leader emerged, Moses. According to the Bible, he was chosen by God to lead the Jewish people out of slavery. Moses was not only a brilliant leader, but also a prophet, a lawgiver, and a visionary for societal transformation. Under his leadership, around 400,000 Jews left Egypt in a great journey that lasted 40 years, an event known as the Exodus. Legend has it that this group miraculously crossed the Red Sea, then continued across a barren desert, facing countless hardships on their way back to the land of Canaan, the land God had once promised to their patriarch Abraham. During their time in the wilderness atop Mount Sinai, God gave Moses the 10 Commandments, a sacred code that laid the foundation for Jewish law and morality. These 10 Commandments were recorded in the book of Exodus and the book of Deuteronomy in the Hebrew Bible. Although Moses lived to be 120 years old, he was not allowed to enter the Promised Land. He died in the desert, leaving the mission of conquering Canaan to his successors. The Jewish return to the Promised Land lasted nearly 2 centuries, according to various biblical books such as Numbers, Joshua, and Judges. Records show that the Jews entered Canaan from the east after crossing the desert. Despite being equipped with rudimentary weapons and exhausted after 40 years of wandering, they changed their military tactics from siege warfare to guerrilla warfare, capturing cities like Jericho and Gibeah. Part of their success came from planting spies inside the cities and pretending to retreat, then launching surprise attacks. The Jews continued to live in Canaan, a strategically important land connecting the 3 continents of Asia, Europe, and Africa, alongside other peoples such as the Phoenicians to the north, the Arabs and Ammonites to the east, and various semi-nomadic tribes. Though living among other peoples, they always maintained their ethnic identity and monotheistic faith. This faith became the core of their culture and was both a source of salvation and the cause of many persecutions over the millennia that followed. Around 1175 BCE, a new group appeared and disrupted the already fragile ethnic order in Canaan, the Philistines. This people were believed to originate from the Aegean Sea region, possessing advanced skills in metallurgy and military techniques. After settling along the southern coast of Canaan in places such as Gaza, Ashkelon, Ashdod, Ekron, and Gath, they began to expand their influence deeper inland. The southern Israelite tribes soon felt the military pressure from the Philistines. They were frequently attacked, resulting in local wars and resource conflicts. Internal divisions and the decentralized power among the Israelite tribes made the situation more chaotic. Facing the threat of invasion and assimilation, the Israelites realized they needed a centralized government capable of managing, uniting, and protecting the entire nation. From this circumstance, Saul was chosen as the first king of the United Kingdom of Israel. Following Saul was King David, a talented warrior who defeated Goliath and became Saul's son-in-law. David not only consolidated the kingdom, but also moved the capital to Jerusalem, making it the religious and political center of the Jewish people. His son King Solomon succeeded him and brought the nation to its peak of prosperity. During Solomon's reign, circa 960–931 BCE, the Jerusalem Temple, also called the First Temple, was constructed. This temple was not only a grand religious building, but also regarded as one of the architectural wonders of its time. Solomon fulfilled the unfinished dream of his father David, transforming Jerusalem into the dwelling place of God and the spiritual heart of the Israelite nation. However, after the death of Solomon around 931 BCE, the United Kingdom began to fall into crisis. Ethnic, political, and religious conflicts that had been simmering erupted into civil war, causing the kingdom to split into two smaller states: Israel in the north, comprising 10 tribes, and Judah in the south, including the tribes of Judah and Benjamin. The northern kingdom of Israel was later invaded by the Assyrian Empire, a powerful Mesopotamian empire, around 722 BCE. The tribes were exiled, assimilated, and disappeared from history. This event is known as the 10 Lost Tribes of Israel. Meanwhile, the southern kingdom of Judah continued to exist but lived under the domination and supervision of neighboring powers. By 586 BCE, the Babylonian Empire under King Nebuchadnezzar II conquered Jerusalem. The city was destroyed, the Jerusalem temple was razed, and most of the Jewish population was exiled to Babylon, marking the first major exile and the end of the First Temple period, lasting from 825 to 586 BCE. However, in 538 BCE, when the Persians led by Cyrus the Great defeated Babylon and established the vast Persian Empire, he issued a decree allowing the Jews to return to their homeland and rebuild the temple. This marked the beginning of the Second Temple period, a hopeful renaissance for the Jewish people. By the 4th century BCE, the land of Canaan, then commonly called Palestine, fell under the control of Alexander the Great. After his death in 323 BCE, the vast empire was divided and contested by his generals. Palestine became a contested land between the Seleucid kingdom north and the Ptolemaic kingdom south, causing Jerusalem to change hands many times within just 17 years. From 198 BCE, the Seleucids controlled this land. Under the rule of King Antiochus IV Epiphanes, the Jewish people faced severe religious persecution. Jewish rituals were banned, the temple was desecrated, leading to the Maccabean revolt in 166 BCE, led by the Hasmonean family. The revolt was successful and led to the establishment of the Hasmonean dynasty, an independent Jewish kingdom that lasted until 63 BCE. After 63 BCE, the Roman Empire intervened and gradually established control over Judea. The harsh and unjust Roman rule caused continuous Jewish uprisings. In 66 CE, the largest revolt broke out, but by 70 CE, Roman forces led by Titus recaptured Jerusalem, massacred thousands of Jews, and completely destroyed the Second Temple. This event marked the second exile and the final end of the era of the two sacred temples in Jewish history. From then on, the Jewish people began a nearly 2,000-year-long diaspora, living scattered across the lands of the Roman Empire and later the Byzantine Empire. They suffered discrimination, persecution, and multiple genocides. Nevertheless, despite these circumstances, the Jewish community steadfastly preserved their cultural foundation, laws, and education. From the 7th century until 1948, the land of Israel, formerly Canaan, changed hands continuously falling under Arab control. Then the Crusades, later the Ottoman Empire, and finally the British Mandate, laying the groundwork for the establishment of the modern state of Israel. After being suppressed by the Roman Empire and the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE, the Jewish people were scattered across the world. During the first 5 centuries after the Common Era, the center of Jewish communal life gradually shifted from the land of Israel to other regions, notably the Middle East, especially in what is now Turkey, and then spread to more distant lands. In the following centuries, Jews continued migrating from the Mesopotamian and Middle Eastern countries to the Mediterranean coastlines, Europe, and North Africa. Although living scattered across many places, they maintained their distinct identity, forming small, insular Jewish communities where they lived as both a religion and a people, but without any independent political entity. From the 13th century onward, Jews began to face widespread discrimination, boycotts, and expulsions throughout European countries. By the 18th century, they were confined to crowded dark slums, called ghettos, where living conditions were extremely poor and harsh. Massacres of Jews continued to occur, especially in 1492 when the Spanish monarchs Ferdinand and Isabella issued an edict expelling all Jews from Spain, forcing tens of thousands to scatter and flee, with many forced to convert to survive. From the 16th to the 18th centuries, Poland became the largest cultural and religious center for the Jewish diaspora. However, in 1880, after Poland was conquered by the Russian Empire, a wave of violent anti-Jewish pogroms erupted across Russian territories, especially in Ukraine. Large-scale massacres occurred in 1881 and 1886, devastating many Jewish communities. In 1891, an expulsion decree forced most Jews to leave Moscow. In the early 20th century, violence escalated further with horrific massacres in 1903, 1905, and 1906. From 1880 to 1920, over 2 million Jews were forced to flee Eastern Europe to escape violence. Most migrated to the United States, while others sought refuge in North Africa, in safer lands. However, the greatest tragedy in Jewish history occurred during the Nazi regime in Germany. The final solution, the Nazi plan for the genocide of the Jewish people, claimed the lives of more than 6 million Jews. Of the 15 million Jews worldwide in 1939, over 1/3 were killed in the Holocaust. From this tragedy arose an intensified yearning for a homeland and nation for the Jewish people. Zionism emerged as a political and spiritual movement, aiming to restore Jewish self-determination in the historic land of Israel, formerly Canaan. The name Zionism is derived from Mount Zion, a sacred hill near the old city of Jerusalem, symbolizing the sacred connection between the Jewish people and their ancient homeland. Since the Babylonian exile, the belief in the day of return to Zion has been maintained through prayers and scriptures. However, by the late 19th century, under the influence of nationalist ideas spreading throughout Europe, Jewish nationalism was systematized and transformed into a practical political movement. Thinkers such as Moses Hess, and especially Theodor Herzl, considered the father of the modern Zionist movement, advocated for the establishment of an independent Jewish state in the land of Palestine. Starting in the early 1900s, Jews began organizing waves of immigration and land purchases in Palestine, which was then still part of the Ottoman Empire. In 1909, the city of Tel Aviv was founded, the first modern Jewish urban area in the land. By 1920, about 50,000 Jews had returned to settle in Palestine. By 1933, this number increased to 220,000. On November 29, 1947, the United Nations General Assembly adopted Resolution 181 to partition Palestine into 2 states, one Arab and one Jewish. When the British Mandate ended on May 14, 1948, the Jews in Palestine declared the establishment of the State of Israel, an independent nation of the Jewish people. At that time, Israel's population was only about 700,000. After 1948, the Israeli government implemented policies encouraging Jews worldwide to return to their homeland. Massive waves of immigration took place, creating a strong settlement movement. By January 1st, 2016, Israel's population reached over 6.3 million people, of which 9 out of 10 were immigrants or first and second generation descendants of immigrants. Today, Israel is home to Jews from more than 70 countries representing many different cultures and traditions. Contrary to the image of a barren and desolate land that Mark Twain described when he visited in 1867, this land has miraculously revived the arid desert, has been greened, modern cities have risen, and a rapidly developing socioeconomic system is flourishing here.